Hey everyone, this is PrinceBrightstar, and welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV. Today we're going to do the first part in a series which is going to be taking a look at the optional Heavensward dungeons. So let's go ahead and log in, and let's get this started. Okay, and the first optional dungeon that we have here is going to be offered up from this guy here. He has a quest called For All the Nights to Come. Let's go ahead and accept it. Cowards, all of you. Have you no shame at all? Oh, I beg your... Wait, are you not Master Brightstar? Honored ward of House Fortomp? Praise Halone, surely you would consider my request. Know you the Dust Vigil? Westernmost of the Citadel watchtowers built to warn of the Horde's approach? 'Twas lost following the calamity, another victim of the snows. Within the ruins lies a priceless treasure, which must needs be reclaimed. I thought to enlist the services of these so-called Dragon Slayers, but it seems their courage is not as boundless as they would have you believe. But you, sir, you are not one to shy away from danger, am I right? Very good indeed. There is a sculpture of the Fury within the Dust Vigil's chapel. An ice rondel is set in its helm. I would have you prize it free, and deliver it to me. The Vigil is not difficult to find. Simply head north towards Banepool until you come to the gates. Knights may bar your passage, but should you explain who you are, they will grant you leave to enter. Alright, so let us make our way to the north. And this is going to take us all the way to the northeastern part of Western Korthus. The quest giver was down in this area here. Actually, I guess it's more in the central northern part of the area. All right, here we go. What's this? A ward of House Fortomp wishes to enter the Dust Vigil? You are aware that the ruins are infested with wild beasts, and gods only know what else, are you not? Why, just the other day, one of the convictors claimed to have seen a massive winged beast. Not a dragon, mind, but something altogether different. But far be it from me to deny an esteemed personage the opportunity to kill himself in new and exciting ways. Pray go on ahead. Alright, so the Dust Vigil has been unlocked. Hey Ads, thanks for joining me today. And let's go ahead and get this started. Looks like we got a small wait on the queue here. Typically when this happens, usually there's just more need of healers than tanks. Let's see what else this person has to say here. There's no telling what you'll find in there. No one's ventured inside since the calamity. Alright, so why don't we take a look at the description of this place here. So, in the days following the calamity, Western Korthus was abandoned by the Knights of Ishgard, save for the Dust Vigil, whose defenders refused to withdraw. Since then, the fortress has only fallen further into disrepair, and her garrison has long since been presumed dead. Unlike most Ishgardians, who would sooner put the tragic episode behind them. Father Wildthrow would have you enter the Forsaken Fortress and reclaim a priceless treasure, an ice rondel set in the helm of a sculpture within the Vigil's chapel. A simple request, perhaps, but if experience has taught you anything, such tasks are anything but. Okay, and just to note, this is the only optional leveling dungeon that's available in Heavensward. So we will be level synced down to 52, I believe it is, for this one, or 51. It's one of those two. But hopefully this won't be too much longer. I can see that we do have 1 DPS at this point. Like I mentioned, this is the first of a two-parter series here. And also, if you're viewing this from the playlist, you're probably noticing that the video is coming in now at 60 frames per second, and that's because in the interceding time between when I completed the Heavensward story and current day today, which is early 2018, I got a new computer, and so that's why I'm now able to broadcast at 60 frames per second. Alright, here we go. Alright, let us toss on our Shield Oath. And let's have an Ishgardian Muffin. And let's get this going. As you can see, this gives me Tenacity, Vitality, and Direct Hit Rate. So that is very good for tanks. Once again, typically when you're dealing with 3 or more enemies, when you're tanking, you want to go for your AoE. But of course, make sure you do read the specifications of what that weapon skill will do, as the potency does need to match up. Alright, so that path was blocked. Yeah, go this way. And we got this big guy here. Alright, that is a Griffin. We'll probably see him later in the dungeon. So far this is fairly simple. We're basically just trying to get ourselves inside the Dust Vigil. Nice, we took that guy out before it could get its AoE off. And this guy from behind. But as long as you're paying attention, it's an easy pickup. Okay, so this guy has this cold steel lever. And that is going to go into this damaged winch. And we have arrived at the first boss. Let's get this going. As you can see, since I am level synced here, I don't have all of my abilities available. But with the rest of the dungeons today, we will have all of the abilities up to level 60 available. This dungeon was intended to be something that you could do to help you level up in Heavensward, but because we came in already partially leveled up, and because I was in a rush to get ready for when Stormblood came out, I opted to pass this dungeon up. So now we're basically back to actually completing. Really isn't too much special, I don't think, to talk about with this guy here. It's basically just kind of pay attention, make sure you don't have him turn towards the party for the cleaves, and just watch the AoEs. Alright, and down he goes. Alright, moving on, we do have these guys here. I'm going to pick up one more enemy. The Fading Soul. Alright, there we go. Alright, looks like we got some undead here. Unfortunately, unlike most Final Fantasies, the healer is unable to attempt to cast healing spells on them. That is how you would typically kill them in other games. Alright, this should be another set of zombies. Here they come. Yeah, this is a really good room for using an AoE. Alright, there's a key. And let's get the door open. Alright, more of the undead. This room is a little tricky in the pickup, just kind of do the best that you can. Alright, more popping up. Yeah, and that's why it's a little bit tricky. You've got one group that pops up, and then immediately after another group starts to pop up. And so you got to kind of do one AoE grab, and then kind of hang on to your bigger one until the second group joins in. Alright, let's get this started here for the second boss. Ads, to answer your question, you're talking about the optional level 63 dungeon? If that's what you're talking about, I did complete that back when Stormblood released last year in the summer. Seems like that guy is actually not listening to me when I try to grab him off. Even though I am at the top of his list. Okay, now he's focusing on me. Once again, just watch the AoEs in here. And just kind of do your best to try to keep up. Whenever this area is showing up, try to get into the middle. Looks like our ninja there just used the limit break. That's fine. If anything, I would say that this is the more hectic fight of this dungeon compared to the last boss. So I do agree with that action. Alright, there we go. Second boss done. I gotta figure out how to silence that sound. That is one of the little kinks I'm still working with, related to Windows 10 in my new computer here, so there is probably something I can do to actually get that fixed. I may just have to replace the sound effect so it doesn't get in the way. If there was a follow-up quest, I may have completed it off-screen, after I was done with the spoiler pass. I'm not 100% certain on that. I would need to look, but I think... Actually, if there was one, I might not have... what I'm doing on my main character at this point is I'm basically leveling up all the combat classes. So I've now got all the tanks to level 70, all the healers to level 70. I've almost got all the casters to level 70 as well. The only one that's left at this point is the Black Mage, who is at level 63 right now. And then everybody else is of varying levels, no lower than 41. And as part of that process, in order to help speed up the leveling process, I've been completing side quests. I'm just not sure if I ever addressed that particular quest or not. Alright, that takes care of that group. There's that griffin again. Now what makes this particular area so dangerous is the fact that you've got this persistent debuff on you, which is taking you, basically causing you to take damage, or at least it's going on whenever the wind is blowing heavily. So there it is again. Alright, let's move on to the chapel door. And there is the statue. Now, how does this guy know that that's our target? I guess that at least makes it easy for us to retrieve it after. Alright, so this guy does a few special things here. He does a line AoE there, as you can see. He also does this AoE that basically encircles the entire room here, which we'll be seeing in just a moment. Is this it here? Yeah, this is it. So once that appears, you basically want to run behind the rocks, so that way you don't get pulled into the middle. Okay, so he just broke all the rocks, so let's kind of get a little centralized until we see these rocks drop, so we know where to go next. Unfortunately, we're losing both of those. Yeah, if you get sucked in the first time, it's really hard to stay out of the middle there. Actually, it looks like this person managed to do it. Dark Knight is pretty fun. It's a in response to ads here, Dark Knight is an interesting tank. Yeah, you do have kind of the edgy theme going on if you're into that at all. But at the same time, even though some people are saying that it's it's the weakest of the tanking classes right now, it is also at the same time. Oh, I'm getting sucked in. It was a class that was able to complete the Ultimate Binding Coils trial, which, if you're not aware of that, that's basically the ultimate end-game content right now, as of patch 4.1. And so the fact that players were able to complete that with that class, and I think it was also the world first that had them in there. It's just as viable as other tanking classes. It really comes down, I think, more to kind of how you want to play things. Anyway, dungeon's finished here. Let's go ahead and give the commendation to the healer. And let's get out of here. Alright, so now we need to make our way back down to the south. What I will say about it is also it's different from tanking as like a paladin. In that case, you need to be willing to take some more damage in order to restore your MP, which will then allow you to do certain abilities like an AoE that will, depending upon how many targets you hit, give you health back. So in that way, it's even a little bit like Warrior. Unlike if you play as a Paladin, whereby instead you would use Clemency to restore your health instead. Alright, here we are. Do you have it, Master Brightstar? Let's hand it over. Yes, there is no mistaking it. At last, it is ours once more. My parents presented this sapphire to me on my wedding day, as my wife and I presented it to Yuhelmlik on his. One day they would do the same for their son. But for that disgrace of an inquisitor, suspicion of heresy, what rot. He knew what he wanted from the start. By the time I secured her release, they had interrogated her for days. She was a shadow of her former self. But the final insult, the final twisting of the knife, was when my son took command at the Dust Vigil and found the ice rondel to be the centerpiece of the newly commissioned sculpture of the Fury. He couldn't prove it was the self-same one which had vanished, but oh, he knew. But no more, no more. It is back with the family, where it belongs. It is, admittedly, hollow comfort, yet in my waning years I must accept what little that can be had. Alright, and so that completes the first dungeon we are taking a look at here today. For the next one, we are going to make our way over to Ishgard. Yeah, I would agree on that as well. If you want to have more healing on your side, it's definitely, I would recommend going with Paladin over Warrior and Dark Knight. Even though they do have their own self-heals, I find that Paladin just lasts a bit longer than them. Okay, so this is the next one we're going to take on. This quest is Do It for Gilly. Ah, Prince, I was looking for you, or rather, your friend Wedge was. Left a most puzzling message, he did, with instructions to convey it to you verbatim. He requests your presence at the Aetherochemical Research Facility in Azizla for a project of utmost secrecy. Sounds like nonsense to my ears, but he assured me you would grasp his intent. Well, that is the message, and now I've delivered it. Alright, so let us make our way over to Azizla. Alright, and we've got ourselves a bit of a flight on our hands, so let's make our way over to the main ship. So how's everybody doing today? Having a good weekend? Alright, looks like we have arrived. Let's speak to Wedge. Oh, there you are, Prince. I've been waiting for you. And so has an old friend of ours. You remember Gilly, don't you? I was feeling awfully lonely without her, so I snuck out the back door when the chief wasn't looking. But look at her now, systems down, no power to utter even a single blip. Doesn't it just break your heart, Prince? Left alone in this wasteland for thousands of years, just waiting for someone to help? And as soon as she's done her duty, clunk. Tossed to the side like a rusty old suit of armor. Well, yeah, that's basically what happened in that cutscene there. Well, I won't stand for it. We won't stand for it. I'm going to bring Gilly back to life, and you're going to help me. At first I had a mind to fix her up myself, but I fear she's proven beyond my abilities to repair. That's when I hit upon it. If we found a new body for Gilly, we could transfer her personality and memories right into it. It'd be like she'd never left. I know what you're thinking. And just where are we going to find this new body, Wedge? I've got 3 words for you. The fractal continuum. It's an old warship that was converted into a museum of elegant technology. If there's any place we can find a new body for Gilly, it'll be there. And it's just a short trip away by matter conduit 6 to 7 to boot. You'll go, won't you? For Gilly's sake? Oh, I'll go, that's for certain. But let's see. So, the dungeon is down here, but it looks like we're actually going to have to take that conduit. Even though we can fly. I never understood that. Yeah, I agree. Sheltron is very useful. In terms of intervention, I really don't use it that much. I typically just use Sheltron for whenever there's a big hit coming in. So, yeah, I completely agree with you on that. It is much improved from when we were looking at it during Heavensward. Now, it looks like we just have to take the teleporter here. Transport is available from this location to the Fractal Continuum, the greatest storehouse of technological marvels in all of Alag. The Fractal Continuum is temporarily closed to tourists. Access is limited to those with level 3 security clearance or higher. Unauthorized visitors will be removed via the Continuum's anti-intruder defense system. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy your visit. Alright, so now we can just fly up to here. Yeah, intervention is really used if somebody else, aside from the tank, is going to take damage. You can reduce that damage, but what I've found is typically healers will be able to just simply heal that up, regardless of how big of a hit it was. Alright, so let us queue up for the Fractal Continuum. And it looks like, once again, we've got a small wait here. So, the Fractal Continuum. Wedge is a man with a dream. A dream that Gilly, the kindly guidance node who escorted you through the etheric wastes of Azazla, might be restored to life, to blip to him once more. To that end, he'll need you to fetch her a new nacelle from the Fractal Continuum. A museum of elegant technological creations that will open its doors to welcome its first visitor in some 5 millennia. And this is one of 2 dungeons released when Heavensward was released. We are going to take a look at the other one when we do part 2 of this series. But yeah, just looking around, if we, let me fly out here real quick. So Azazla actually had a lot of potential, in terms of what they could actually do here. So you had, the Fractal Continuum, you also had a bunch of other ships flying around, that could also host dungeons, so, we'll see if they ever come back here, to this area to release more dungeons. There is a series of trials that we're going to look at as well in the future, which does take place back on the main ship. So they did come back at least for that, but that's going to be for another time. Alright, looks like we're just waiting on the healer now. Yes, you're talking about Passage of Arms. That is whenever a boss is basically doing like a countdown attack that's going to hit the whole party, that is when I will pop this out. and that basically grants everybody a 15% damage reduction whenever I use that, and they are standing within the area of the wings here. I mean, technically I could use it more often, but at the same time it is on a 2-minute cooldown, so I would rather save it for those bigger hits. Oh, it is. It's a really fun ability to look at. Divine Veil is also something that can be kind of useful because it provides a barrier to everybody else. So I don't think I've ever had to use both in conjunction, but you could if you wanted to. But I think the reason I also like Paladin is also just because it has the hollowed ground ability here. It has a long cooldown, of course, but it really doesn't have any of the drawbacks that you get from other tanks in terms of being invulnerable. With Home Gang on the Warrior, you get stuck in place, and for the Dark Knight, basically, unless the healer heals you all the way back up once you use your invulnerability button, you're basically going to die at the end of the time. Oh, I'm sure they're going to add more tanking classes. I get the feeling the way they're going to handle things going forward is we're probably going to get 2 DPS and then a tank and a healer, then 2 TPS and then a tank and a healer. So in this particular case, it was time for the DPS, and that's why we got Samurai and Red Mage. Blue Mage is one that I'm curious to see happen. Even though it would not wear the same armor that your typical tank would, the fact that they basically learn all these different abilities in the different games through the Final Fantasy series kind of inspires me to think that they would actually be a good tank, just because they could learn how to heal the whole party. They could learn how to provoke attacks and things like that. I don't know if the skill learning process would be the same as in other games, or if it would just be you learn a new ability every 3 or 4 levels. It'd be nice to do it like the other games, but it may just not be possible to do it like that. Alright, so it seems like we've actually got a lack of healers right now here, because we're now beyond the 5-minute timer here. Hopefully somebody does queue up here. I'm just going to change something on my HUD real quick here. There we go. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I think the game, I think Final Fantasy XIV has also dropped the name Geomancer before. As part of Stormblood, so there's also a chance that we might see that in the future as well. Alright, while we're waiting here, let's go ahead and just head down here and let's just see what other targets there are around here. Here we go. Let's take care of this Vanguard. Now, obviously, I'm over-leveled for these guys, since I'm level 70, and these guys are just level 59. But I do want to try to keep the action going here, as we're waiting. I'm actually kind of surprised no healers have queued up at all. Or if they have, none of them have unlocked the Fractal Continuum. And that that actually has me worried about some of the other dungeons we're going to need to go into. It's also kind of strange. I don't think we experienced this kind of delay when we went through the A Realm Reborn optional dungeons. There we go, finally. Alright, let's hop in. Alrighty, so let us get this going. So we're going to take this teleporter here over to the first area. Okay, and that is some kind of stone there. Alright, these guys here, once again, these guys look like Final Fantasy XIII enemies, as well as the Dreadnought here. Although I think the Dreadnought also made its very first appearance back in Final Fantasy VII. Alright, big group here. here is the first boss. As you can see, he has 4 lightsabers, for lack of a better word. And he has this AoE ability. So, even when I'm a casting class, I'm going to typically stay kind of close to where the lines are, so that way I don't have to shift away too far. Alright, down goes the first boss. Alright, funny thing about this guy here. One of the beast tribes in Eorzea basically does not have feathered wings like this guy does. So, this is pretty much your lore confirmation if you wanted to know if they actually did come down from Azizla or not. I'm talking about the ones that worship Garuda. Just bring this guy along. And we got these guys popping up. Once these guys go down, those pods should open up. There we go. Okay, and moving on. Alright, so here we got the second boss. It is a Minotaur. Now this guy is, he's got a couple of things about him. He will do the swipes similar to the coin counter from back in the Aurum Vale, as well as the big swings, but he will also enrage. And the way to get around the enrages is to go to these biomass incubators. So we can open this up. He gets surprised by it, and that gives us free time to attack him. Because he is going to munch, munch, munch. And down he goes. Keep in mind, this dungeon was originally designed to be handled at a much lower eye level than what we are synced to, which is 210. So they use the limit break there to take care of all the smaller adds there. We've got these switches there that we need to tap onto. There are 3 of them in total. And then we step on these pods and we go for a ride. I think the first time we ever saw them in-game was actually in the Binding Coils, which is content hopefully we'll get to one day, but that's something that I'm actually going to need to get a team lined up for, to actually handle that correctly. Because even at level 70, it's still possible to wipe in there if you don't know what you're doing. It also doesn't matter for this area if you go left or right at the start. You can go either way and take this group on as the second group instead. You will still meet the same end point, which is going to be in the middle there. Oh yeah, definitely. Probably gonna do the 24-man before the 8-man raids. But yeah, I do want to get through that content as well. Okay, so for this boss here, what he does is he's going to bring out these ads, and we basically need to take those ads out quickly, or else they're going to basically flood the floor with unsafe spots. Here we go. Now once again, this is a lot easier than it used to be, since these guys are going down much faster than back in the day. But in some situations back then, you would basically have the whole floor covered. Okay, I've got a bomb on me, and hopefully the healer sees that. I don't think they see it, so I'm going to pop Hollow Ground just in case. Alright, and now he's put these points on the ground here as well. Same deal, just don't go near those or else they're going to damage you. And down goes the last boss. Alright, let's see. Commendation to the healer. And let's get out of here. So at this point, we're just making our way back over to Wedge so we can hand this thing over to him. Almost there. You're back, Prince. Oh, do tell me you've brought me a new nacelle. Alright, let's hand it over. Why, that's a functioning nacelle if I ever saw one. This'll do the trick, I'm sure of it. Auto-detecting newly installed nacelle. Nacelle detected. Reinitializing system settings. Initialization complete. Welcome to Azizla, Master Wedge, and Master Prince. Gilly, could it truly be you? The very same, Master Wedge, and running at optimal efficiency thanks to my first full-body overhaul in approximately 5 millennia. You really are too kind. Ha, now that's my sweet little girl. Well, after all you did for us, it was the least we could do. I've got a favor to ask you, Prince. This might sound silly, but I want you to take Gilly with you on your adventures. I want her to see that there's more to our world than this etheric waste she's called a home for thousands of years. Yes, I'd say our little girl's done enough guidance. From this day forward, she's an accompaniment node. And with you, she's going to go where no node has gone before. Alright, so that completes the quest. Alright, so, up next we are going to make our way over to the Dravanian hinterlands. So for that we're going to start in Idleshire and then make our way out of town. Alright, so the next quest we are looking for is down here, an overgrown ambition. Alright, so, here we go. What? There's one behind me, isn't there? No? Thank the gods. I've done enough running for one day. Those goddamn beasts came out of nowhere. It's a wonder we made it out alive. But we can't just leave the treasure there. You look like the sort that's used to risking life and limb. Might be as you could help clear a way through those seedkin that damn near made us a meal. We'd see that it was worth your while, of course. If you're interested, let my friend Sane know. He should be somewhere near the entrance to St. Malkain's Arboretum. Well, I reckon it's safe to go back to Idleshire and look for a few more hands. We'll need as much help as we can get. Hope to see you at the Arboretum. Alright, there is Sane. You're here to help with the seedkin infest in the Arboretum? Thank the gods we've not the numbers to venture into there ourselves. They used to research plant life from every corner of the realm here. You know. Of course, with no one to look after it, it's all gotten a bit overgrown. Usually places like this are more trouble than they're worth. But if the parchments we found are anything to go by, there's something in these ruins that could benefit everyone in Idleshire for generations to come. A proper, priceless treasure. And it goes without saying that a site as old as this is sure to be stuffed with all sorts of precious relics, which you'd be welcome to keep if you help beat a path for us. We'll follow behind you once it's safe and see if we can't find what we're looking for. Alright, so the Arboretum is now available. Let us queue up. Alright, and once again we got a small wait here. Oops. The ruins are bound to be filled with relics that satisfy even the most discerning treasure seeker. And they'd be yours to keep, providing you rid the area of beasts for us like. Alright, so let's take a look at the description. St. Malkain's Arboretum once housed the greatest collection of flora and fauna the realm had ever known. Alas, in the wake of the Exodus, it was left to the elements, and the wildlife within now roams its halls unchecked and untamed. A band of treasure hunters hopes to brave this leafy labyrinth in search of a cache more valuable than gold that could ensure Idleshire's prosperity for years to come. But will their search for this savage garden yield fortune or end in failure? Okay. And this was part of the first patch that came after Heavensward was released. Going back to what you said earlier, Ads, yeah, I agree. There are some very big AoEs that would be nice to have, and in fact, in the lead up to Stormblood, before the ability video was released, everybody knew that Paladin did not have a damage dealing AoE, but during the level 60 Paladin quest, there was an ability that Solzagal used, which basically acted as a room-wide AoE, and it was thought that that was going to be what the Paladin's new AoE was going to look like. It was basically a line AoE that was basically as wide as the screen is right now. But instead, we got this Total Eclipse ability instead as our damage-dealing AoE. And yeah, there's also other things I've got planned. Like I said, we're going to look at the 24-man raids, and in fact, in the near future, what I'm going to be doing here is kind of a shorter stream, which is going to touch up on some of the stuff that I had to end early, just because things were not working at the time. Particularly the raid when it comes to Rabanastre. Unfortunately, when we went in the first time, nobody could get past the second boss. But now that time has passed, we'll be able to get in there, hopefully without too many issues, and actually take that place out. And just for reference, I have not completed that raid intentionally because of that. I wanted to do it on screen. That is a 24-man raid. And then we also have to complete the fourth battle in the Omega Deltascape. Since the next area of that is going to be coming out with patch 4.2, which is going to be coming out actually in just a few weeks, or at least it's suspected to, sometime around January 30th or so. Now, related to patch 4.2, they're basically splitting it into two patches because of all the content that's going in there. So we're going to have the main scenario quests as well as the next Omega area as part of that. And then for patch 4.25, that is then going to open up a whole bunch of other things, including Eureka, which is going to be the new way for people that don't want to do savage raids to basically level up their gear. There's a lot of speculation on how it's going to work, but it seems like most people are gravitating to the idea that it's going to work similar to the Diadem, which is something we haven't looked at before. It's going to be similar to the Diadem, but it's going to have its own independent leveling system as well. So imagine, and we still have yet to look at this either, imagine the Diadem and Palace of the Dead combined into one thing. That's what people are suspecting Eureka is going to look like. And I do plan to be in there. I will probably be streaming that, and I'm not exactly sure how I want to handle that, because, of course, I want to be capturing things on screen, but at the same time, some of that content is probably going to be somewhat repetitive in what needs to be done. I've always wanted to try the idea of kind of a silent stream, whereby I'm streaming, but I'm not really saying too much. I'm not trying to put on a show, like I have in the past. And with the New Year's thing that I did earlier this year, that was kind of the first step towards that. So I'm not saying I'm never going to talk again during a broadcast, but it's something that I think will help to get more content out on the channel, because right now I'm only releasing one video or stream a week just due to time constraints. I don't have time to edit or put together the pre-production that needs to happen for some of this stuff. But if I could just, you know, start a stream up and just go and not really have anything set in stone for what the plan is going to be, as well as maybe not necessarily having to talk about every single little thing I'm seeing on screen, that might also go towards getting more content out. Alright, so it looks like, once again, we're just waiting for the healer now here. Hopefully they do pop in soon. I guess it would also kind of be a way for me to kind of show you what my routine is when it comes to games, when I'm not really focusing on doing much. I don't know if I would actually have those streams saved to the channel, aside from just kind of a, I don't know, maybe I'd call it like a chill stream playlist or something like that. No real focus on any one thing. Alright, while we're waiting here, I'm just going to step away for a few seconds. Okay, it was just getting a little warm in here, so I wanted to kick the cooling on. I guess while we're waiting here, let's take on these Morbles. Oh, I've actually got a fate here. There we go. Just as we finish up the fate, the Arboretum is ready to go. Alright, here we go. For this, we can safely do a multi-pull here. Yeah, those Morbles have an ability called Bad Breath. I wanted to demonstrate there how that looked if you did get hit by it, which is why I popped the hollowed ground at the start there. Or I guess it's awful breath in here. So these guys just AoE them down. They're not too much of a concern here. But you do need to take them out in order to open up the next part of the path here. And here is the first boss, the Rose Garden. For this one, typically I just keep him in the center of the room because of an ability he's going to use fairly soon. Alright, here we go. So you want to watch where he is, and then watch where he goes. So he is going to continuously use the ability as he spins around the room here. You need to basically stay away from where his little minions are as well, wherever they're doing their bad breath as well. Also got these rose hips here. Not really sure what they are. They look like balloons to me, to be honest. Alright, first boss is down. nothing too special about these guys. In just a moment, though, we will need to kind of pay attention to what's going on regarding this whole thing over here. We got basically what is this huge honeycomb nest. And we gotta break in. Alright, so now that we are inside, we're going to grab as much as we can. And we are just going to run. We're running all the way over to here. And yes, somebody else already has the idea. We are just going to break the honeycomb as fast as we can. Alright, honeycomb has crumbled. Now we just head down here. And they are unable to follow us. So this is the second boss here. And what they're going to do is they're going to have their minions kind of flying around the arena here. Occasionally they're going to use stingers on the entire room, aside from where they are not lined up. Actually, it looks like they came in. They're supposed to be a part of this, whereby they do like this big line of stingers. Okay, I think this is it. Yep, there we go. Alright, down goes the second boss. Alright, and we are going for another slide. Down a very, very deep hole. These guys, there's not too much to worry about, just AoE them down. But as a tank, you can start to save some of your cooldowns if you're constantly using them. Because we got this grizzly host that we're going to grab and bring along to all of these targets over here. Another one joined in. Actually, two joined in. This is the last set of enemies before the final boss. Once again, not too much to worry about here. We got this tree that does some AoEs, but it's really not that much that you need to worry about here. Just get out of the way. Alright. And that opens up the path over here. Alright, so let's get this boss going here. They've got a couple of abilities here that you need to watch out for. This one, of course, you want to just get in the middle there. And then they've also got these little guys here that are going around the room. They put these... They're very hard to see, but there are circles on the ground there. You want to stay out of those. And then just look away when you see the eye. There in the middle for just the moment here. And down goes the last boss. Alright, commendation over to the Dragoons, since they are the last one there. And let's get out of here. Alright. Haha, I knew the thought of the Arboretum's treasure would be enough to get your juices flowing. Thanks to all the pruning you did for us, we were able to have a good look around the ruins, and it didn't take us long to find what we were after. Oh, I can't wait to tell Midnight Dew the good news. Speaking of which, would you mind coming with us to Idleshire? Midnight Dew will want to thank you personally, and I dare say even an adventurer like you would be interested in our finds. Alright, so let's make our way back to Idleshire. Ah, you've come at last, adventurer. Well, let's give Midnight Dew the good news. Now that's an ending I wanted to hear. Let's hope these seeds live up to their reputation. What fruit do you reckon they'll bear, adventurer? Something wrong? You seem surprised. Sonny, you did tell our friend here what you were looking for, didn't you? Ah, now that I come to think of it, that little detail might have slipped my mind. You see, the treasure we were looking for was seeds and sprouts that were cultivated especially by the Charlians. Years of research went into breeding them, apparently, and they produce plants like you wouldn't believe. As of now, Idleshire's main industry is collecting the junk left behind by the Charlians, but it won't last forever. Which is why it's important we find a new way to make ends meet, before we end up with nothing left to trade. Acquiring those sprouts and seeds was the first step to accomplishing that goal. If we can find crops that'll nourish in this land's changeable climates, we'll have a new industry that should keep Idleshire going for generations to come. Well, these seeds ain't going to plant themselves, so I best be about it. Something tells me growing them will make getting them seem easy. It'll take a few moons, tis true, but I look forward to seeing those seeds bear fruit. Make sure to visit us from time to time, adventurer. One day we'll treat you to a feast grown by our own hands. Alright, and that completes that quest. Alright, so at this point here, I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break here, and then we will keep going after that. Please stand by. Alright, I am back, and we are going to pick up with yet another dungeon here. For this one, we need to make our way over to Limsa Lominsa. So let's teleport there, and we're going to make our way over to the upper decks. Okay, so we are looking for 1313. Looks like that is going to be over here. Here we are. Okay. So this is actually interesting here. The quest is supposed to be available, it's supposed to be called Things Are Getting Serious, but it looks like that is not what is currently available here. Give me just a moment here. Okay, so what we're going to do here, since this isn't where I'm expecting it to be here, we're actually going to pick this particular dungeon up when we do part 2 of this then. Okay, so instead, what we need to do is actually head to Gridania instead. And we're going to head for the Conjurer's Guild. Alright, and this one I know is where it needs to be here. So, one more night in Amdapor. Full glad am I of your presence, Prince. The Twelveswood has need of your unyielding courage once more. Following your deeds in the lost city of Amdapor, we had thought the darkness lifted, its haunted walls freed from nightmare. Lest did we enter the ruins, the elementals at our side, intent upon returning that decaying edifice to the forest. Only for our immortal companions to withdraw without warning. From their agitated whisperings, we later gleaned that the entity of daunting power yet lingers within the bowels of the city. And until this being is put down, the elementals appear loath to return. I pray you, visit Rhea Osena, where she waits at Camp Tranquil, and answer her plea for assistance. Alright, so let us make our way to Camp Tranquil. Alright, and she is down there hanging out with some Moogles. Ah, the intrepid adventurer who braved the darkness of the lost city. To no other would I entrust this task. Lest you wonder, I do not doubt your success in expunging the darkness which took root in the ruins before. The heart of that evil was excised, without question, but it would seem that some other power lay dormant beneath the stones all this while, its presence invisible to our senses. Plainly, however, that power is now very much awake. The elementals' panic attests to that. Quieting them will be no small task. While my fellows and I endeavor to persuade the elementals to rejoin us, I would have you venture into the city once more. Find the source of this new disturbance, and do what must be done. The wood whaler Alfine yet stands guard at the gate. I dare say he has not forgotten you. Ask and he will let you pass. Alright, here we are. When I heard about this new trouble in the Lost City, I thought you might be back. Not one to leave a job half-finished, eh? Where you're stepping there. Aught fit to frighten an elemental is not to be taken lightly, be you favored of the Seed Seers or not. Alright, so the Lost City of Amdapor Hard mode is now available. And once again, this is going to be in the same area, but the dungeon is going to look different than before. And actually, it looks like this time we finally got an instant pop here for the queue. Alright, here we go. Let's grab this guy and bring him along. We've got some unfortunate eggs we gotta get rid of here. That brings along these crawlers here. Which is the main reason why I grabbed the big guy and started moving. Alright, following behind them are these gremlins. We'll actually start moving here as well. All the way to right here. Once again, the more enemies that you can drag into an AoE situation, the faster you're going to go in terms of taking them all out. Because it's additive with the potency. So we had 5 targets here, and that's going to give us a total of 550 potency for this group of 5. At least until they start dying. Alright, let's hop over here to the unfortunate eggs so we can get those going at the same time. And it looks like we got some butterflies here. Or one more, as they're called. We're going to finish off this batch before moving on because we got the boss coming up next. Okay, so for this guy, he's got a pretty unique ability that if you're not watching for it, it's going to catch you on the first time that it happens. And he basically does this ability whereby he's going to make a copy of you. And that copy is then going to attack the party. And the way that you beat this ability is you just look away towards one of the walls. There it is. Looks like not everybody did that, so I'm just going to move this guy over here. Yep, so everybody, all the copies start firing wherever you were looking when the ability went off. Yeah, once you get that down, the rest of the fight is actually very easy, as you can see here. Alright, moving on to the next area. And it appears I might have capped my tombstones. Oh, actually I got a little room left. Not that it really matters on this character. Alright, so for this whole area, you want to drag the enemies into these bright circles here, because that is going to weaken them. As you can see, once you drag them all in there, you really don't have to worry too much about the incoming damage, because they get weakened by the light there. So basically just grab them and then move yourself over to the light. They will follow, and then you're good to go. Okay, on to the second boss. See, this guy is basically a statue come to life. He does a couple of things here. We need to make sure we attack this sphere here. That reduces the incoming damage from that ability. And then he also has these puddles here. I think those weaken. Ready to pick these guys up when they show up. And down goes the second boss. Once again, we got more statues coming to life here. We've also got this light sprite we gotta catch. busy with those AoEs there. Nothing too much to say about this particular group. It's the next group you kind of have to watch out for, as you're going to have a bunch of those eyes show up on the enemies, and you need to make sure you're looking away from those. Let's go ahead and take care of that group now. There it is. Alright, so, final boss time. Now, this one is kind of unique in that it's going to go down fairly quick, but you'll kind of understand what's going on once that happens. So right now it has abilities that are basically helping it to regenerate health. So we actually want to move out of that. And now it revives. And what happens now is its abilities get reversed. So now the healing abilities basically do damage. So once again, let's get out of that. Now they're casting Cure 4, so we need to move away from that. Okay, that takes it down for a second time. It's getting back up one last time. And so now it's kind of alternating between doing healing as well as doing damage against us. And down goes the final boss. Alright, let's get out of here. Alright, so we are going to make our way back up to Camp Tranquil now. You are returned from your expedition into the Lost City? That is well. We, for our part, have at last succeeded in easing the elementals' disquiet. But tell us, Prince, what was the nature of the hostile presence that so unsettled them? Extraordinary. I was all but certain that some seed of the darkness had survived. I could not have been more wrong. I certainly did not expect ensorcelled statues, creations of the Amdapori Magi, I imagine. It would appear so. They likely began to stir when that fiend was awoken by the weakening seal. Yet that does not explain why the elementals would have cause to fear these ancient sentinels. It seems safe to assume that the Amdapori built them to repel the armies of Mach. Were I to hazard a guess, I would say that the passing of the years has dulled the statue's senses, and that they mistook our friends for ethereal beings of a different order, void-sent, of the kind employed by the Magi. The elemental's arrival would have seemed like an invasion. That would explain much, yes. Void-sent monstrosities and undying guardians of stone. The War of the Magi must have been a conflict of truly terrifying proportions. It is well that these ancient relics have at last been laid to rest. With the city's defenses thus disabled, we may safely return to our task of cleansing the ruins. You have our deepest gratitude, Prince. Alright, and so that finishes up that quest. And now at this point, let us return back to Limsa Lominsa. Okay, so this time we are looking for a quest called Storming the Hull. I believe that's going to be right down here. Indeed it is. Well, look who's back in Limsa Luminsa. Me and the chief were just talking about you at the winch, you know. Come to think of it, wait here. I'll go and get him. It's his resting day, but he wanted to speak to you. Something about Hullbreaker. Glad to see you back, Prince. Every time I hear your name, I'm reminded of how you helped me salvage that coffer from Hullbreaker Isle. You did me a great favor, lad. Though the rumors of Mistbeard's treasure soon died down, I couldn't abide the thought of having the Har picked apart by vultures. So I petitioned the Admiral to sanction the establishment of a camp on the island for the purpose of hosting training exercises. I reasoned that the place was remote enough to give our recruits a proper taste of combat. But, truth be told, with all the administrative duties asked of them these days, I'm more worried about our finest going soft. Sparring with your comrades might keep the rust from your blade, but it won't stop it from going dull. That being the case, I thought I might ask for your help in a little sharpening exercise. Remind them what it feels like to be in a real fight. The chief was hoping you might run the Maelstrom's training gauntlet and give our elites a good old going over. Nothing too rough, like just a few missing teeth and the old cracked rib, savvy? Assuming you're willing, come and find me at the Morbid Dry Dock. When you're ready, and I'll arrange passage to Hullbreaker for you and your mates. Okay, let us make our way to the dry docks. Ever since we took control of that rock, it's been my job to keep an eye on the skies over the Seedales. When the misty mane o' the Doxy's Pole sweeps in, there ain't no point weighing anchor, as you can't see an ilm in front of your face. Long story short, I have to stay here and watch the weather, but I'll be listening out for word of how you get on. Thanks for agreeing to do this, by the way. Having a fabled hero like yourself go through the same regiment as the infantrymen will do wonders for morale. Any road, the weather seems to be having just now, so let me know when your crew's ready to be ferried over. We'll get everything else in place in the meantime. Give them storm elites a bloody nose for me, eh? Alright, so Hullbreaker Isle Hard Mode has been unlocked. Let us queue up. Alright, and so it looks like we got a little bit of a wait here. Tain't what you might call a definitive pattern, but I've noticed the mist tends to thin after the gales of great storms sweep over from the Rotano. 'Tis as if the navigator's clearing the way for us, eh? Alright, let's take a look at the description of this. To the chagrin of countless treasure hunters, the golden coffer of the legendary Mistbeard was not to be found on the Hullbreaker Isle, and so like the mists which had withdrawn to reveal the isle, did those ambitious souls depart to seek fame and fortune elsewhere. Oh, here we go. here we go. Alright, let's get this going. We've got a bunch of raptors to start off with here. Alright, now we got these birds as well as this Warrux. This one can be a little tricky if you're not sure how to handle them. Typically I bring them over to the corner here. This big guy is going to summon up an AoE in just a moment. There we go. And now we move him a little bit. And now the path is open. Alright, let's grab these jackals and keep moving. Very simple, just stay out of that stuff. And now let's move on to what is quote-unquote the first boss, which really isn't a boss at all. It's more of a gauntlet. The first group is fairly simple. The next group is where things get a little complicated here. We got this Corel here, who is focused only on the healer. There is nothing I can do to drag him off, so all we can do is just take him out as quickly as we can. Now we've got all these line AoEs going out here. Just simply take them out. And of course, watch the circle AoEs there as well. And I think we might be losing our bard. Yep. I try to end up right in this area just so I can grab these guys as soon as they pop up. But then we also have another crawl here. Okay, longest pull of the dungeon coming up here. Go all the way out to here. And it's typically this pull where I need to actually start dropping all of my cooldowns in order to make sure I don't go down as we're trying to finish these guys off. Alright, we got another set of monkeys here, or Sasquatches rather. Alright, that is the end of that pool. Let's make our way over to here. We got giant slugs here, or Ymirs, as they're called. Of course, some of you may know these guys by a different name. If you played Final Fantasy VI, you're also known as a Whelk. Now, this guy has some pretty unique stuff to his thing. He has this ability called Blanket Thunder, which hits everybody. And then he also has a bunch of other thunder-related abilities to watch out for. He also has the ability to freeze the ground. And he can also do this Mega Volt. So Mega Volt, what you do is you stand in the puddles to make sure you don't get hit. Alright, and now he's freezing the ground. And so what I gotta do now is just watch for weird things are going to happen. Let's separate here. Alright, and now he's going to use an ability. There we go. Once you've done this dance a few times, it's fairly straightforward what's going on. Let's see here. So, I am feathered, but I actually did not need to be for this. It's those three that needed to get back, because they were getting shocked. And that finishes off the second boss. Alright, and so now we've got another gauntlet here. We're going to take on 3 groups of basically some of Limsa Lumensa's most elite troops. Alright, there goes one. There's the second in that group. Alright, this guy on the right. I hate this guy. I'm gonna grab him and do everything I can to hold him. And then we've also got this guy, this ninja guy here. He, as you saw, he disappeared for a brief moment. This is one of the trickier pulls to deal with if you haven't dealt with it before. You really want to go for the guy on the right first as the tank, because he is a ranged attacker, and as such, he will not come to you when you are trying to gather everybody up to AoE him down. Alright, so now we got the last target here. Alright, and now they're going to start using certain abilities here, which basically make them out to be a warrior. One of them, unless they go down quick enough, is going to be Fell Cleave. Actually, they did go down quick enough. I'm actually surprised. I've never had a group that was able to get them down quick enough. Alright, and as we can see, the Grand Storm Marshal is our final target here. So this guy has several things you gotta watch out for. He does a room-wide AoE there. He will bring down barrels that need to be pushed away. He also does the circle AoEs as well. He will also debuff a player, and that player needs to be Isuno'd in order to make it so that they can move away from what is going to hurt them. He also has a second phase, which we'll be entering into fairly soon. Here we go. And now he pulled out his gun. And that's basically what we need to push away, those kegs there. The other thing that he does, which will be popping up in just a moment, here we go, he poisons everybody, and the way to fix that is you need to run into a treasure chest with a potion in it. And then from there, you can then continue your attack. Alright, so that's the ability that the person needs to be healed up, or rather, Isuna, to get out of it. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like our healer has Isuna on right now, or they didn't notice that it needed to be cast on the player. This beard is just about done. And there we go. Alright, so let's give out our commendation. Let's give it to the Bard. And let's get out of here. Alright, let's make our way back over to Limsa. Alright, let's turn this in. Well, how was it? Did you give them elites the hiding of their lives or what? Come on, out with it. Patience, lad. All of Limsa will know the tale ere long. 'Twas a sight to behold, that much I will say. Prince and his comrades carved their way through beast and men like a cutter through a swell. Not even a visit from the sirens and the krakens could slow their pace. Eh? Pirates turned up at the drill? What in the seven hells did they want? Why, to do their civic duty, of course. They invited themselves as members of the Black Sails Unit. You'd be forgiven for forgetting, but the pirate powers are still bound to the maelstrom by the Galadian Accord. Of course, they never deigned to take part in our exercises, and we've long since stopped asking. As for why they chose to grace this one, I reckon word got out that the Warrior of Light would be facing our finest, and they fancy to go themselves. I saw no reason to deny them. Ha! Admit it. You wanted to see if them old cutthroats could still hold their own in a fight. Begging your pardon, Chief, but are you alright? You look a bit sore. Don't tell me you... I deemed it good for morale. But I did not come here to speak of that. Prince, the Maelstrom is grateful for your participation. May we count you a friend till sea swallows all. Good day, gentlemen. Ack, I'd have stowed away on a ferry if I'd known the chief be fightin'. Seeing you in action must have woken the spirit of the Golden Age in him. Though I doubt he's as spry as he was back then. I hope you didn't give him too bad of a beating. Legends like Mistbeard never get old, but the chief, well, he's just a man. But let's keep this little chat between ourselves, eh? Good to see you again, Prince. Thanks for helping out the chief. Alright, and that finishes up that quest. And so with that, we have now made it halfway through the dungeons that still need to be completed in Heavensward, and we are going to pick up the second half on the next episode. Thank you for joining me today. This is PrinceBrightstar signing off. I'll catch you next time.